And it's on. Okay, we're here. We're online on another live Hangout broadcast. This is an event that takes place every Sunday. Today happens to be Sunday, September 15th, 2013. And this is something we call Learning Together. Learning2gether.net. That is the learning has a 2 in it. The number 2, Learning Together. And tonight I'm having a debate, or we're having a debate with Jim Buckingham, who is here he's actually a colleague in the UAE. We're going to anchor our discussion on the TESOL Arabia EdTech SIG and talk about where we think it's going, but I think this applies to other people's contexts, whatever professional groups you have there, how you interact with people, in your local environment, and get them online, or get them in professional development, that sort of stuff. So, well, that's kind of an intro. We've got with us, by the way, Benjamin Stewart, and he's in Mexico, and Rob Permanis. And where are you, Rob?
I'm in Southern California.
Okay.
Close to Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, well, Jim, what are we going to talk about tonight?
Well, I thought, I was hoping that we'd have some people from a little closer to home, or our home, but I'm hoping
I sent an email to all my colleagues at work, by the way.
Yeah, and I've sent it out to about 200 members from around the region, and posted. I was also hoping, we also got an okay from Denise Boyd in Muscat. Let's hope these people show up at some point, but in either case, let's hope that I can make this a little bit more interesting than just being a local expose. I think it's really important to give a context here to just what we're doing with the TESOL Arabia EdTech SIG, especially to Rob and Benjamin there that may not be familiar with it. The TESOL Arabia EdTech SIG is part of TESOL Arabia. It's an organization around here that has been set up to promote professional development for EFL instructors in the Gulf region. It's been doing that for a while now.
I guess Rob probably knows that TESOL is the Teachers of English to Speakers of Other Languages, and that's an American-based professional organization which has, I don't know how many 100,000 members, but it has annual conferences. It's probably maybe the biggest one in the world of its kind, probably. I don't know if you can dispute that. But anyway, and it has many different branches overseas. So TESOL Arabia is one of these localized branches.
But the TESOL Arabia branch here has only been around since 1995, and it started out innocently enough just as a group of teachers getting together from the UAEU, that's the University of the United Arab Emirates, and the British Council in Dubai helped them out with providing them with a place to stage it. That's 1995. That's less than 20 years ago. And that little itty-bitty conference has grown to be the second largest EFL conference in the world today. We last had about 2,000 participants. It's second only to the TESOL conference in the United States. Mm-hmm. And remarkably enough, the whole thing is run by volunteers. And one aspect of that is these special interest groups. And one of these special interest groups that's been formed is the Educational Technology, or the Learning Technology group. The history for that is a little bit more vague. It's been around for some time. I'm not sure exactly when these things actually emerged, but they did. And the original focus of EdTech, as I remember it, and Vance, you could probably fill me in on this as well, or add to it. The original focus tended to be all on CAL, computer-assisted language learning. And so we were looking at what software to put on computers and put them into computer labs. We were talking about drilling using Rosetta Stone, simulations using Plato, and doing all kinds of practical language learning skills using typing and word processing. Doesn't sound terribly sexy, does it? But essentially, it was a lot of show and tell. Things have obviously evolved a lot since then. Tech's gotten a lot cheaper. It's a lot more available, and now it tends to be a major topic of discussion for just about any EFL teacher. The interests have obviously grown too to include just about everyone, so EdTech themes are typically well attended, not like they used to be. Today's focus is very, very much different from the past. Obviously, the key factor that's caused that change has been the internet. And I would say the key change has been an access to information and an access to experts. You know, all of us can pretty much, you know, just by using Google, jump online and look for what we think we need, look for whom we want to even speak with, and it's at our doorstep or in front of our eyes in a matter of seconds. So that's caused some pretty major implications for a special interest group such as the learning technology one. And from my perspective, it means that people that become involved now can't be as passive. And let me explain a little bit about that. Typically in the past, people would get involved in a very limited way. That meant attending face-to-face events, attending presentations, collect their handouts, get involved in a 15 to 20 minute discussion, maybe do a little bit of networking in the hallway with the presenter and the member afterwards, and then they would depart with a new helping of knowledge dished out to them to apply as they see fit. And that was pretty much the game. And today we've got a completely different scenario. We've got people that are a lot more active, or they can be. They're a lot more self-directed. It's almost assumed the way we go out and do Google searches. But the organization still continues to do face-to-face events. But more and more of what we're doing is going online. And the demand's being active as a result. So we've gotten into online discussion threads, attending to videos, podcasts, visiting web pages, participating in online conferences, discussion groups, you know the long list. And then discussing these resources. So there's a lot more room for people to get involved. And surprisingly enough, though, we're still running with issues with people coming to get involved in at least this special interest group in the Gulf region. And Vance is well versed in it, and I'm becoming more and more well versed in it. Yeah, any comments on that? That's just a quick summary of where we're at here in the UAE and in the Gulf region with promoting the use of learning technologies with EFL instructors.
Yeah, I might say that I think you're looking at you've made notes here. I'm trying to put that link in the. There we go. I've got the link now in the text chat. So if you want, you can go there.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Vance.
This is kind of what you've been looking at. Okay, so well, maybe I could. And I also had up there. Let's see if I can do a backspace and. Too many windows here. Let's see if I know what I can do. There we go. There's the TESOL Arabia EdTech website. This is what we've been talking about. So, well, you said we have been doing doing these new ways of learning.
Yeah.
But I wonder who you mean by we, because if certainly you, me, Rob, and Benjamin are quite active in this kind of was it just-in-time learning, anytime, anywhere, always on learning. There's so many names for it, and certainly and we take advantage of these opportunities. In fact, I guess that's why Jim and I are. I wouldn't say we're the only people who care about the TA EdTech SIG, but we're certainly the most active in it. And we have other people who help from time to time, but they don't really come forward. I might just ask if other people like Rob and Benjamin have similar experiences in their professional environments? Do you try to, and, I mean, I know Benjamin does, for example. I think I might even asked Benjamin at one time, or maybe the group, if it's your experience that your online world, your online colleagues, tend to not intersect that much with your face-to-face colleagues, the people that you teach with every day or that you interact with every day. So it could be maybe you're in two separate worlds with these things. So what we're talking about, what Jim is talking about there, stated slightly differently, is trying to bridge those worlds, bring colleagues into an environment where they can learn more efficiently, more effectively, and also try to bring the online environment to them.
Well, I know in my case, we have talked a little bit about this in other Hangouts, Vance, but this is one thing, in fact, that I'm researching now. I'm doing a doctoral research, and I'm very much interested in how educators interact online, specifically here locally, and I'm basically focusing on local universities. So I am in the process of starting a research study looking into that very thing, how language educators here at local universities interact with each other, whether it's from the same institution or whether it's from other institutions or with other online communities and other educators from around the world. But I mean, I think in my case, particularly at my local university, I tend to honestly interact with educators outside my university more than I do within the university, regarding topics that are that I'm interested in and that relate to my own particular teaching practice. That's not to say that I don't interact, obviously, with the educators that I come in contact with, but as far as the amount of information that I get on an ongoing basis, I find, for me personally, I find opportunities online that I think go above and beyond what I think I would have if I were just to work with teachers face to face, from my own institution. But I can't really answer for my colleagues as far as how they interact with others. Maybe they have other online university or all other online communities that they interact with. But that is something that I am interested in and something that I'm researching, and I hope to, learn more about that as I get into my research.
It's only anecdotal, but what I'm picking up is that a lot of my colleagues, at least a few that I'm frequenting with, will tend to network with people at work, and then they do what I call guerrilla style PD. And I'm really curious, Benjamin, if you pick up on this. And then by that I mean that they know exactly what they're after, and they go after it. They go in onto, say, Google, they search for it, they get what they want, when they want, and then they get out. And then they go to work at applying it if they so speak. Now that could be even an event like this, or it could be something they find on the web, I mean just in general, through a Google search. But I suspect there's a lot of that going on. And then applying it, and then perhaps sharing it with their colleagues face to face, so that they get some feedback as to the relevance of their context.
Yeah, I'm inclined to think too that most of that type of approach perhaps is pertaining to more lesson planning, not so much reflection and sharing experiences after the fact. Now that's just my own gut feeling. This is something that I want to research more about, but I would tend to say that it's more focused on the planning and less of the reflective piece.
Yeah, I think it's probably safe to say a lot of people here are speaking pretty openly about an increase in the number of contact hours, increase in class sizes, and a tremendous demands being put, more and more demands being put on their time. And as a result, there's a tendency to to approach PD in this sense. You know, let's quickly find something that will work. Let's quickly apply it. Bang, did it work? Did it not? Hopefully somebody else has tried it. I can share the idea, or I can keep quiet about it if it didn't work, and then go on from there. And hopefully I'm tapping into a number of experts that can be anywhere and everywhere to provide me with X, Y, and Z in the next 5 minutes. Sound familiar?
I'd like to welcome Anna Christina Pratis.
Absolutely.
who's,
Hi there, Anna.
Hi,
Yeah,
sorry I'm late. It's
No problem.
thunder and rain around here, and I had
Oh,
to
really?
check. Yep, I had to check that it wasn't raining inside the flat. It happened.
This is interesting because we're in the same city. I didn't realize it was raining, but I
Yep.
do have a window outside and I see clouds, and the cat is quite interested in what's
Raining
going
in
on.
LA.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Thanks for the weather report.
Yeah, thank you. Also, I'm glad I'll know
For
not to go
Benjamin
outside.
and Rob, that doesn't happen very often over here, so it's a big event.
Yeah.
I see, and that's usually and the same case here in Mexico. We're kind of in a dry area as well, so.
Well,
You're in Cuernavaca, is that?
Here, but maybe I can throw in a different perspective.
Sure.
I teach international students at a university in business topics. I also do some training, and funded programs for economic development, things like that. We can look at different nations and train them in things like Six Sigma. I don't know if that's your term. It's a business kind of a methodology that's been
Yep, heard of
made
it.
kind of famous. It uses a lot of statistical tools, that and things, and to set up programs. And project management is very, sequenced and very developed. There's a lot of crossover between the things, and so combined between those two things, I find that there are cultures, local cultures within those environments, and in the classroom when I'm working with Europeans and Koreans and Brazilians in the same classroom, as blended in with working professionals from the field of discussion. So it's interesting on how to do that, and I use and find that using technology like this is important to bring in other voices into the conversation. And I've actually done this in the classroom. In a classroom, I've used Hangouts in a classroom to provide the tools, or on a site they call it in the Gemba. That's where the work is being done.
The Gamba.
Do it right there.
Okay. In situ.
Yeah, it's a Japanese term, but it's like a reporter, live on location. They call it the Gemba. Reporting live from Tokyo.
Oh, I like it.
And so you're actually in the event, in the world, in the workplace, in the classroom, at the restaurant, at the whatever. So I find that the technology and the interface are pretty good. Personally, I don't care for webcasting anymore. I prefer the democracy of this. Smaller groups. I have some quantitative things on network theories and all those types of things on how many connections work well. And also that I've taken my 2 minutes. And I've learned that you never talk for more than 2 minutes.
That's a good one.
Well, we couldn't do that here.
I've got a good friend, Michael Coughlin. I don't know if you know him. Some of you might. He's working with TAFE in Australian. I think it's has to do with what do they call it? Vocational training. Mm-hmm. And they were really big and emphasizing. I think they do it sort of second nature now, but they were really big on point of view technologies, and basically Australia being a big area, they a lot of their training required students or trainees to have to say, put on a welder's helmet and video what they were doing and be assessed on that and that sort of thing.
Mhm.
So they had quite a nice. They had conferences on this, which are also online. They're sort of interesting. But one of the guys who is instrumental in that is Alex Hayes, who has been on Learning2gether, and he recently attended a conference on Google Glass. Well, actually, it's on Valence in Toronto. But he's been making us aware of just all kinds of aspects with glass, and then going back to this vocational training at a distance, which utilizes the technologies that I think Rob was talking about, you know, in really interesting ways. In fact, actually, I think I recall from were you describing your class and your situation when I met you before in one of Benjamin's Hangouts? I was quite intrigued. I think my 2 minutes is up.
Let me go get my device. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Timer. Well, if Rob disappears there, what's Rob coming back with? Do we know?
A device.
A device. A mystery.
Yeah,
device.
well, it's kind of coming back to me.
Didn't you, Vance?
You had mentioned Google Project Glass, and whenever someone mentions that, I have
get one. Yeah.
this thing called Google Project Glass on a shoestring.
Okay.
Okay. So
Literally,
what I do is I
can see the shoestring.
Yeah, it is a shoestring.
Mm-hmm.
And I put my phone in here, and then I hang it on my neck.
That's
and
the
then
shoestring.
while I'm in the Gemba, you know, live where the work is being done.
Mm-hmm.
And you just mentioned like welders training or whatever. Yep, I can do that. And then also too, if there's other outside observers from say a hangout, they can be in the Gemba with me.
Cool.
In real time. And then every once in a while, instead of looking at what I see and do the observations, and other people can observe what's going on there, then you do this. So this is my, it's a little more functional than Google Project Glass because I have 2 cameras on it.
Uh-huh. Well, one of the things that they were talking about at this conference is the thing you've got around your neck.
A front neck, and I look and go hands-free.
Well,
and record and all those things.
What you have around your neck looks like the kind of thing that they might hang on you at a conference with your name tag on it. And there is a company that makes these things so that they are recording all the time and stream. And so basically people
it's not really
at the conference can be streaming. There's actually a company that makes those things.
Yeah, I would like to. I would.
That, you know, they.
Couple hundred.
They use them at
conferences to go with it.
I would like to. You know, these cost less than $1. They cost less than $1.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, I can see these as little giveaways instead of the little lanyards that they use. You know, at those conferences with your name on there, why not make a function like this, and then and then as you walk around on the conferences and you're having conversations, you know, why not include the broader world?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Of course, conference people might not like that.
Yeah, it would go over like a lead balloon over here.
You'd have to have a disclaimer written on it.
Yeah, there's only, you know, that's like there's only about 40% of the people that, as I understand it, Google Project Glass makes about 40% of the population angry. Just for wearing the glasses.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Now, and that's you know, like, don't you be videotaping me?
Yeah. There's quite a culture developing around that where there's somebody, I think his name is Steve Mann.
Yes.
Anyway, he's been, you know, yeah, I got it right. He's been working with glasses since last century, and he's been developing things that would, affix to a set of glasses, or, before. Actually, he has such a track record that he obviously informs some of the research on this, and he's been recording his life for a long time, and has had encounters such as the one that you mentioned, because he just wears it all the time, tries to get away with it, and so far hasn't been punched out, I don't suppose.
Well, there's a lady there's a lady from Missouri. Her name is Sarah Hill, and she's a news broadcaster, and I think she's won 11 Emmy Awards or something like that. And her focus is on bringing veterans to historical sites to see veterans. And so she wears Project Glass and brings immobile people back to these sites on a regular basis so that they can experience that again.
What a great
that's one methodology. But she did say, I like this better because her audience kind of wants to see her, and you can't do that with Project Glass. So I think she's done TED Talks on, I think she's coined it human-centered media. So.
Well, it brings up a really interesting topic of context, Rob, because the context over there of using that sort of technology, and there are certainly a number of people that are opposed to it, and there seems to be an equal number, if not greater, that are certainly comfortable with it. But if we're here in the UAE and we pull that stunt off, because of the cultural context that we're living in over here, we probably wouldn't be able to get too far with it. I would say it's not a question of what our opinion of it is.
Right.
I know you shaking your head perhaps, but I just can't imagine us being able to walk down the street with that kind of a device. And it's not bringing the wrath of the establishment here. Context is everything.
Yeah. No, I totally agree, Jim. Totally agree. And I don't think we can use it for education. Not yet. Not here. Not yet.
And I would say the reason for that would be the cultural significance of it.
Well, I'm so naive in that. I'm so naive in that not too long ago, if someone failed to show their face, then I said, oh, they must be a scammer person. But obviously, in a different culture, showing your face as a woman, let's say.
Yes.
So you're not supposed to do that. So, I guess I just needed to be educated in that little thing. It's like, it doesn't mean that you should be excluded. It just means that you don't want to show your face because you're not supposed to. Those types of things.
Yeah. And there's also the matter of
and I don't understand the full context of it. Just
being part of civil what do you call it? Taking on the role of the police, theoretically, by being able to monitor others and having a record of what others have been doing. You could very, very well be recording something that's considered wrong in the eyes of the law, or wrong culturally, and then it gets exposed or gets circulated via YouTube in a matter of minutes, and then we've got at least over here, would be a pretty significant matter. Yeah, the culture is everything. Culture and context. Yeah, very, very much so. Interesting, though. I still think I love the idea of being able to give someone a camera to wear. I'm thinking of a technician or somebody studying to be a technician or a mechanic, and they being able to give a record of how they performed a given function by recording their own actions and submitting that as evidence of their competency in say, doing a tune-up on a car or changing the plugs or whatever. Keep it that simple. As opposed to doing it on a piece of paper. I think it's fantastic. And there may be
exactly what they're doing.
There may be an application of it possible limited application for its use here. And then this leads into the notion of something else I'd love to talk about, which is the badges, but we probably won't go there right now. We could.
You know, I do have another 99-cent, and it's a Swiffer.
Geez, I never find these in the dollar store over here, Rob.
Put Velcro on. What's that?
I say I never find these in the dollar store over here. Where do you get these things?
You don't have a 99-cent Swiffer? I have Velcro on the back of my phone.
No, I don't
and on this
recognize
little pad. It's on a stick. It's just a stick with a flat surface on it with Velcro.
Oh, okay.
And now, on the training types of things, where I kind of use this as an example, is that in a classroom of kids from Texas that works on fixing computers, I've been able to show them, here's my computer, can you tell me how to fix it? Tell me which screw to, live. Other examples are on this stick. I've taken the stick and gone underneath my truck and said, can you tell me what's broken underneath my truck live? On a stick. So.
Cool.
Silly little.
That reminds me of a time some years ago, my wife will attest to this. I videotaped taking apart a washing machine.
To make it live.
Mistake, yeah. Use the videotape to record me taking the whole contraption apart to find the broken part, and then using the same videotape to help me put it back together again.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah.
She was happy.
I'll go
I
get
could
my
tell you the
Swiffer.
story because it was a happy ending. Ale.
Well, one thing I'm interested in is how we work with each other online, like we're doing right now, and how this informs and changes what you do with your students. And for example, we meet someone like Rob Perhamus. Is that how we pronounce your name? I think I got it. Saw it in big letters when she came on. Is that right? Can you help us with that? Rob Perhamus?
Rob Perhamus. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good. Okay. Anyway, just he talks about simple little devices, which are obviously things you get a takeaway from this kind of thing. And things come up in our chats all the time, and even the way we work with each other. A lot of us are involved in online, training for each other. But what we learn from that are the techniques we use probably help you to blend your classroom. I certainly, find. I think we was talking with Benjamin a couple of weeks ago about how we just got laptops dropped on us in our class, and it's been so valuable, to be able to set up an environment the students can use laptops, and successfully, and watching other teachers try to deal with that. Welcome back, Rob. And anyway, I think a real value comes from the experience we get just interacting with each other, and how that carries on out into the classroom. I think that's so valuable, but it's difficult to convey this kind of thing, to others.
Well, that's a good. I'm glad you're bringing that up, Vance. That ties into what we were hoping to talk about, was this debate about being connected to an international audience or connected regionally, or I think we're talking about possibly both. I love the concept of being able to connect with others with an idea I've never heard of, which is what we've just had Rob present to us. Then I have to want to connect with others that are more closer to home, like yourself and Anna, who can help me, or we can help one another put it into a context like here. So there's actual room for looking at that broad, that universe out there of ideas, and then there's the need to somehow explore it and identify how to put it into in a context that's meaningful for us closer to home in the region.
Yeah, both are important. And sometimes we find people who think that the international context is a distraction, and they're very much focused on their local situation, their local context. And go ahead, yeah, Anna, you have a comment on that?
Yeah, there has to be a balance because, as Jim was saying, we do learn with each other within a certain region. The Arab Gulf is very special because of our context, our social and religious context, which our students must abide by. And so there are many activities, class activities, which we can't do, period. I work with young females. I cannot have my females communicate outside the university. No matter how much I would like them to read other people's blogs, other students from other parts of the world read their blogs, I cannot do that. I cannot even risk any interaction through Edmodo, which I use with my students.
Wow.
So there are a lot of restrictions in this part of the world, I feel. And so it is very beneficial when we're working with the same language group. For example, teachers in Mexico and South America, us, well, here in the Arab Gulf, people in the Far East, when they work together, we can exchange ideas. However, having said that, very often I feel, and I don't mean to be negative, at the end of the day, it's the beginning of our week here, but I feel that very often colleagues tend to focus on the negative limitations that we have, whereas we're very lucky. For those of us in the region who work for the state universities, we have excellent facilities. I've been teaching with iPads now for over a year. This is my second year teaching with iPads. I don't think I would have this opportunity in my own country, for instance. I'm from Portugal, and I don't know many schools who are teaching, or universities, which are teaching with iPads. I have that opportunity here. So there needs to be a balance. There needs to be interaction, a healthy interaction, but very often that doesn't happen. I don't understand why. So because I'm not interested, for instance, in the negativity, I do seek a more international PON because I learn more, and I personally benefit more as a learner. I don't know whether you would agree or not, but that's how I feel.
Well,
to that topic, globalization is always an issue. You know, it's in my opinion, some people like it and some people don't. And some people, you know, on the whole topic, no matter where you are, there's some people that there's, you know, you could say globalization of manufacturing is a good thing, international trade is a good thing, but there's many voices that say no, that's not right. You know, so there's the local culture, you know, the political, economic, technological. That's what I find, and that gets into companies, and that gets into schools, and that gets into your neighborhood, and you know, so those differences, people are different. So the only thing I can default on is I go back to Socrates, and I just say I know that I don't know. That's my tagline.
That's a lesson. Oh, just there alone. Good one.
One thing to address what Christina just said about her situation where she can't do some things. I've been for a long time here I actually have 10 years in Oman. I've been 15 years here, and when I first started here, for example, it was very difficult to do online events at local universities because they always had the chats blocked. Like MSN Messenger was blocked, and you know, you had to go and get an IT guy to give you an IP address, a fixed IP address, when they always had a bag of them somewhere, you know. And So, but basically, and then people that I would talk to would they'd hear my presentation or whatever I was doing, they'd say, well, we can't do that. I'd say, well, no, you can't now. And I was very right. You know, maybe next year you'll be able to do that. And actually that happened. All of a sudden, you know, Twitter used to be blocked here. Just the amazing things you couldn't do here. But now you can. And I would tell people at the time, first of all, you need to learn about these things. For one thing, you'll be able to do it. And the second thing is that when you can do it, you want to be in control of what you're doing. If you leave it to the students to, you know, catch on, and then you're going to be on the back foot. So, yeah. Anyway, that's how I've been dealing with that kind of thing. And there's Claire, who is in India right now.
Huey.
Chandigarh.
Well, my take to add to what you've just said, Vance, is that it's the limitations. Whether they're going to be limitations everywhere, anywhere. I think it's never an open book what we can do in the classroom. Those limitations, I think that makes the job that we do a lot more creative. It puts you have an open palette, you can pretty much do anything, and then you're all spoiled for choice. But when we've got limitations imposed on us, it invites some creativity of the craft of the profession. That's my take on that. I think that things in terms of globalization here in the UAE, there's really a movement afloat to try and be global citizens. In fact, it's part of the major objectives of the institution that I'm in, to graduate global citizens. There's still a struggle, however, in trying to work out a balance between realizing that goal and then how much of the technology can be made available to, in our case, students in a tertiary environment, such that it doesn't upset the parents or it doesn't upset higher authorities. And that's the juggling act. And we've, like Vance has said, we've slowly seen these things being released to us. So yeah,
yeah. Also, speaking about those ladies, there was Dubai Women's College. They had a Second Life project going for some time, and they had the ladies designing environments and interacting online in Second Life. Anyway, I just wanted to interject that. Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I teach new product development, which comes up with the life cycles and technology adoption rate curves, and you know, and they can be highly influenced by what's called SEPT, social, economic, political, ecological differences between cultures. So, you know, like some places might, the old examples are switching to a car, you know, or listening to a radio, or using Twitter, or allowing Google to exist. And there's all those factors, those local and global factors that can have a big impact on the rate of adoption of different technologies. You know, it's like, yeah, well, the technology's there, but not everybody's glasses. Google, you know, Project Glass. Or, you know, not everybody wants to show their face, and not everybody can use different technologies, and the things that you pointed out as well. So the adoption rate is certainly, you know, influenced by several external factors, in my humble opinion.
I would just like to add something to what Jim was saying. We, in some institutions, in some higher education institutions here in the UAE, we are extremely lucky. And I know I'm repeating myself, but we do have very good tech and conditions for students. We do have to be creative. We have to find alternatives when we use digital technology for teaching. But that doesn't mean that we're not doing our best. I think really there is a lot of very good digital practices in our classrooms. Vance, you've just said you had laptops for your lads. You know, we have the hardware, we have Wi-Fi, and we do have support. There are limitations. I don't dare bring social media into the classroom and so forth, but there is a lot of good teaching with technology happening in this part of the world.
I'd just like to see more of it being shared, some of these practices, and that's where I'm both, a number of us here in the UAE are rather surprised that we can't bring people out into the open about sharing what they've been able to realize or what successes they've been able to realize when they've had these limitations imposed upon them. They still realize some pretty amazing things.
That's a very sensitive and tricky issue, Jim. Very sensitive.
Good.
So I'll leave it at that. I'll give you an example. A couple of years ago, I'm a language teacher essentially here, and I had beginners, English language beginners, blogging. These students could barely write in their own language, in their mother tongue, and yet they were blogging in English. They weren't writing long posts. They were writing short paragraphs. They were creating word clouds. They were creating short stories with cartoons. But for these students, this was an amazing achievement. And I always ask them, have you shown your parents? Have you shown your family? And the smiles. So they were able to share what they were learning. But again, I know how much I struggled, all the steps I went through constantly. But I think many other colleagues do the same. And yeah, so.
So what would hold you back from sharing a success then? What do you think is holding people back from sharing those sorts of successes in the class?
Sometimes it's managerial support. I remember at the time when for example, when I was blogging, when I got my post-beginners blogging, I had no managerial support. It was expected that students use digital technology. There were desktops, there were laptops, but there wasn't much support for what I was doing with the students. I had no support in general when I created digital stories with them, or they were creating digital stories. Very few colleagues were interested in what I was doing. Fair enough, we're all busy. The most important is that our students obtain success, pass the exams, but I have mixed feelings about education just for assessment. So I try to balance the assessment and achieving digital creations as well.
I think to Jim's question too, I think there's a fear for teachers who are evaluated from traditional methods to feel that if they do share in public, that whatever they do, the failures or challenges that they face could be reflected in their evaluation, which could
Absolutely.
be economic, could have economic impact, of course, or it could mean just either. There's some implications there that really involve administrators and how they assess teachers and the teachers themselves and the expectations that we have and how they share. And I think that has to be a conversation involving both, so that you know, as teacher assessment is real more formative and not so much you know, related to if you do have problems, you know, that you're not going to have, it's not going to affect your evaluation. So I think it's hard to talk about a change in culture and the way in which teachers share without also addressing the realities of their teaching evaluation.
I understand there's going to be a conversation about that on the 27th of September. It's called Share or Perish.
Yeah.
Is that relating to a culture of not tolerating failure? Rather ironic that a big part of education is creating a climate for
well,
that.
yeah, not so much failure just from the teacher standpoint, but the interpretation of failure from the administrating standpoint with regard to the ways in which they evaluate teachers, because
Yeah.
as you know, we have this traditional, still at least in my experience, this traditional view of teacher evaluation coming from administrators typically that looks at someone being good, quote, good or bad, or being able, So this is, I think, the issue that is really, I think, dictating how teachers look at themselves and how they share with others.
That's a good point. That makes sense. So how to do it covertly.
Right.
Hey guys, I thought this was supposed to be a debate.
Well, we thought you were going to participate in the debate. So what would you like to add? How does this relate to your context in India?
What's your hypothesis?
I'm just making a smart comment. I'm just making a smart comment because it was touted as a debate, and you guys are all so friendly, having such a nice, friendly, collegial discussion.
It's a friendly debate. That's what it is.
I know.
Yeah.
We got sidetracked a bit here.
This is organized dissent. No, we need organized dissent, huh?
Mm.
That's not tolerated very much over here either.
Well, I was just going to say there's open. I mean, we've just moved from proprietary century, a closed century, into an open one. Sort of about the turn of the century that happened, but I mean, there's been so much going on with open source as opposed to proprietary. Just the Microsoft versus Open Office and stuff like that. And some people are still stuck in that culture where you copyright things. Even copyright isn't, Creative Commons isn't understood by everybody. There's somebody in where I work who's very technically savvy. She's actually very creative, and but you can see that she thinks that you should pay for your software if you use something, but I think there's maybe an awareness of not realizing that there is an open source, not just software that you can use, but also an open source mentality, and that's what the sharing is kind of, the people who are into this culture of sharing and understand that open source doesn't mean that you're really doing something for free or stealing anything. It means that you've got a community behind things that fix bugs that a proprietary engine like Microsoft, for example, it's always testing its products on its customers, whereas open source community will fix things, it's so hard for people to understand about that, and some people don't really. You just get these. You realize you're at a cultural chasm sometimes that you're not going to bridge very easily. And if someone is stuck on the other side of that chasm still, then they're really, there's a lot of coming along that they need to do. At least I think. I know Elizabeth Hanson-Smith always said there's always going to be more technology, which it means that the trend is always going to be toward. In certain directions, as we know, but
to Claire's point, maybe. I think all language learning should be free. I don't think teachers should ever be paid again.
Hey, let's cut him off right now.
That was just. That was for you, Claire.
Where's the zap button?
Language learning is free. Language learning is.
I don't think that was my point. I don't remember saying that.
No, I was just trying to argue against whatever open source.
I know.
That was my poor attempt, sir.
No, but I mean, we are paid to set up to facilitate. Basically, we can't teach. No one can teach a language. It has to be learned. There are just some things that you're basically paid for your expertise in showing other people how you learn. And if you're successful at learning a language or whatever you're successful at learning, how did you do that? If you can get that across to your students, then but their learning is free. I think I agree with you 100%. Language learning is free. Teachers need to be hired. We call ourselves teachers, but we're really facilitators, and we, that's our expertise. As David Warlick says, is it takes some teachers are master learners, you know, and that's what we are,
Some
really,
of us
just
are
master
teachers,
learners.
Vance. Some of us
Yeah.
are teachers.
Yes. Well, I think,
I just like to go, Vance.
yeah. But the people in this conversation are obviously, you know, one thing, we're having a debate amongst one side. We don't really have two sides of the issue represented here. And you're never going to bring the other side into this conversation because they, you know, just aren't, they haven't bit the Kool-Aid like we have, you know. There's that word ineffable. Is that a word, ineffable? It means that you have to experience something, you know, and that's this kind of learning is ineffable. If you do not experience it, you cannot understand it, and so, you know, that's part of the wall. You know, it's the people who are stuck on one side of the ineffable gap. They're just not. They have to come here and understand what we're doing in order to figure it out. And people who do come here and do join us, often, you know, when I teach courses, I might have, say, 9% of the participants might go, you know, but there's always this 1% that just gets really stoked about this whole atmosphere of, you know, what we've done in Webheads and the multiliteracies courses kind of turned into multi-MOOC, and it's got people who, some people have just become our colleagues, you know, through having you know, experienced this culture, and at the time they experienced it, it reached them, you know, they understood it, you know, so then they join us and help us to grab other colleagues.
Benjamin, is this the sort of thing that you're looking at, trying to do, is identify sort of the typical background of the person, such as each one of us, who's prepared to share online? Is there going to be are you looking for a common set of traits that we may all be sharing?
I'm basically looking at it.
Oh.
Yeah, we're having some bandwidth issues here. You know, a lot of lags in our conversation.
Yeah, and the interactions. Okay, I'm not sure if you can hear me. I'm having some connectivity problems.
We can now. Go ahead.
Okay.
We waited for you.
Okay, okay, thank you. Ideas that are being shared. I'm looking at the tools that the educators use to share those ideas with, and I'm looking at the relationships. Who are they choosing to interact with? Okay. So I'm trying to look for patterns with regard to. Obviously, I'm looking at demographic information as well as far as things like that. But the theoretical idea I'm looking at is the personal learning network, and the way that I'm defining personal learning network is in those three areas: ideas, materials or technologies, and interactions, human interactions.
Okay. Just to flip the switch for me, what Vance was saying, the notion that the kind of person that gets on here is probably going to have a certain kind of background. Myers-Briggs popped in my head about, you know, I wonder if there's been any work done to say that the typical person gets on here may be I don't know, an ENFJ, just to throw it out the top of the head. I'd be really curious. That may be part of the reason that may be only a very small percentage of the overall population. And even amongst teachers, it may be fragmented further.
Yeah, and I wonder too if going back to my point with the administrators and the way in which they evaluate teachers, if all the schools, all the administrators told all the teachers, your evaluation would not be dependent on, you know, your quote unquote failures in the classroom, and they were encouraged to share their challenges that they face in the classroom with others, how that would change the actual behavior of those who currently aren't comfortable sharing online. I'm curious, but that's kind of a hypothetical situation, but you know, I would start there. If I were looking at any particular institution and I wanted to have teachers sharing more, that's where I would start.
We might take a look at our watches. It has gone.
Before you do that, Vance,
Huh?
Benjamin, Ben,
Yes.
you're in Mexico, right?
Yes.
Have you thought to go and talk with all those people protesting down there in Mexico today? You've got a critical mass of people to interview, I think.
What are they
Well,
protesting
yeah, I
about?
mean, this is kind of what I'm looking. Well, this is there's a big protest about the unions, and I'm not, where I work at a public university, so I'm not really in. We have a union here, but it's not the union that you see in the news, and so it's I'm a little bit outside that context, and
Okay.
so yeah. But a lot of these things that I'm saying obviously are easy to say, hard to do, But
I'm just thinking the context that you're in. I'm wondering if that's where you're coming from with what you're saying. If that.
Well, not necessarily, not exactly. I mean, I'm basically looking. Well, I'm looking at my own particular context here, working at the university, and my own experiences working with others from other institutions, but. And obviously, some of the theory also supports this. A lot of research has been done on like walkthroughs, doing walkthroughs, and how those can start to change this culture, having reflective dialogues, informal dialogues with teachers, and how those types of relationships between administrators and teachers, how that can begin to change this cultural idea of sharing and being able to start having teachers share.
Boy, big task. Not easily done. Sorry, Vance.
Yeah.
Just thought I would.
No problem. I mean, in practice, we carry on until the last dying embers, So we seem to have lost Rob again. He might be scrambling to get back. But I guess I could at least mention that this is Learning Together, one of our weekly events. I always like to make clear what the date is because I just hate it so much when I hear broadcasts that they don't announce the date, you don't know when it took place. So this is the year 2013, and it's the 15th of September. And Jim Buckingham and I decided to have a discussion about, about professional development in the context of our special interest group in the TESOL Arabia organization that we're both in. And I suppose, I know Clara is a longtime colleague of mine from TESOL, the big organization.
Long time.
Yeah. Ooh, well, we don't want to get into that. Wow.
Let's not go there.
Yeah, and then...
But back to the 80s at least.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah, and Claire is...
We'll have to do our debate sometime there, Vance. It didn't happen. We'll keep our note.
Yeah, well, anyhow, and we lost Christina as well. I think she calls herself Christina. And Benjamin, I don't know, you generally, I was asking you earlier, before we started the recording, I noticed that you like to stop your Hangouts on time, and you were about to say something before you were interrupted. Maybe you'd like to comment on that now.
Oh, no, not. I usually, I just have been in the habit of stopping around an hour, but that's just kind of a habit that I've gotten into. But yeah.
Yeah, it's something that comes to us from the real world of bricks and mortars, where people got to go out and put another dime in the parking meter or whatever. I guess Google doesn't charge us for this.
Not yet.
Yeah, we're not paid by the hour either, so.
I would be curious, just to throw one more question out, and I know we're ending the conversation here, but I would be interested in having perhaps another conversation about the professional development plans. Some of the references and links that were included in this talk mentioned some of those plans, and so I would be interested in talking a little bit more about that in the future, as far as in your experiences, if you have some sort of standardized setup or plan that teachers typically follow, or if it's just very much kind of each person has their own way of approaching their professional development plans, and so just kind of a question that I had, and maybe that would be a good topic at a later date.
We had it down for tonight, but I'd said to Vance, I doubt if we'll get to it. But it's an excellent, and the timing is good, right at the beginning of an academic year.
Exactly.
There's some places that insist upon teachers doing PDP right now, and there's some places that haven't even heard of it. And there are teachers that are actually initiating it on their own as a means to realizing structured professional development. I think it's an excellent topic, and the timing is good.
Yeah, that's what we do, and when I'm there are plans. Administrators normally, especially here, want to be seen as encouraging professional development, and a lot of times that means that they'll set up a workshop or something like that. And as people commonly say, we love to learn, but we hate to be taught. So when someone sits you down in a workshop and says you got to be there at a certain time, that's not necessarily the best learning. It even, I can see it in the laptops that got dropped on my class. My students immediately started playing games with each other on them. You would think they were just wasting time. Well, they were. That's their kids, So, but there's a test coming up, and now they're starting to ask me, oh, maybe I need to look at this. Where is this on your website? How can I see the book? You've mentioned this while I was playing the game, but so they're actually starting to come forward because they need the information, and sort of doing it the way we do in our professional lives, except that we're much better at it. But that's kind of the way professional development should be modeled in a way. I mean, I'm not saying just go to work and get on Facebook and spend the day like that, but we have our we keep our standards because we're professionals, but still, I mean, that is the way I think learning takes place. Is you have to be self-motivated. You have to be motivated to do it. You can't just be plopped in front of a podium and expect to get much out of that.
Yeah, you need to work on it when you're ready to work on it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I take a little bit of a different tack than Vance. I've picked up that it's part of the demonstration that you are a lifelong learner, self-directed practitioner, and that's a way of manifesting it now is with the PDP. That's the theme, the underlying theme that I'm picking up from a lot of educational institutions. They're saying, nope, not going to have a workshop, not going to have it, but I'm expecting you to do a PDP. And that will outline
documented.
Outline for me how you see the goals, how you see your PDP aligning with your own personal interests and the interests of your department or your institution. And then you will have a talk about it perhaps over your annual evaluation at the end of the year to see, what did you learn, what did you get accomplished. And a lot of other positive things can come out of that. It's a chance for management to actually get a chance to look at things that you've learned that could benefit others within the department or institution, and then call you forward or send you on to doing something else, a bigger project based on it. That's
right. And I think now too we have this potential of sharing these plans so that now we can publish these openly, and if you can get to a point where the teachers are comfortable doing so, now that adds a whole nother learning element to it. So everybody now sees what everybody else is planning, and now you start to have kind of a conversation, a communal conversation about all of them. So
connect with people of similar interests. They don't even have to be in the same school. They could be in the same region.
Exactly.
Same school board, and then giving people credit through. Here we go again with something like open badges to give them micro credentials or recognition for the work that they've done, so that it's formally recognized. It doesn't take place in a vacuum. Boy, it's a big topic. Really big.
The whole area of
It's a good one. Vance, writer. Let's put her down for another another time. I'd love to talk about it too, along with
I just got a call from my wife. She's stuck somewhere, so
telling you to get off here, Vance.
in an institutional setting.
Right.
not a tragedy or anything like that. Anyway, well, it's really great to talk to everybody. Rob, your avatar made it back. I'm not sure if you did.
Oh, do I have sound, by the way?
Yeah, you do.
Yes, you do. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh, I decided to switch to my cell phone. That's all. And but I don't have video. Okay. Just doing a little tech.
Yeah. Ah,
Just a
okay,
little-
cool.
And
But your cell phone is still on your neck, right? Around your neck in one of these little things here?
no, actually, I have it sitting on a tripod, looking at me right now. I think I just have to figure out which camera to switch to. Benjamin, as always, is that formative assessment stuff. Just related to that, I constantly teach people in some other comments that were made. Failures. I try to encourage all people to fail.
Yes, there's a lot about that.
Because I've been such a failure myself that that I encourage others to try it too. At least it's fun.
Yeah, there's
Yeah, some good safety nets there.
comes up a lot in things I read these days.
Thank you, Vance.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Well, thanks everybody.
So we
Audio's been really shaky for me today, so but I want to thank everybody, and we'll talk to everybody soon, hopefully.
Likewise.
Okay, yeah.
Thanks.
Well,
Okay.
we seem to be teaming up on a lot of our PD events. So, and that one on the 27th where you're talking about sharing, you've got an event. I put it in Learning Together, so people maybe will go to that. I'm not sure if that's like a Saturday for us. Friday is a day I often do other things, but anyway, we'll see. If I'm around, I'll try to join in. So, Claire, nice to see you again. Rob,
Okay.
Appreciate
nice
that.
to-
hope we can
nice
get you
to
on to
have you.
Learning Together more often. Sorry,
Ciao.
interrupting. Go
Okay,
ahead.
good night, everybody.
Okay.
Good night.
Good
All
night.
right, bye everybody.
Bye-bye then.
Thanks, Jim. Oh,
Just waiting.
yeah, I'm going to end the broadcast. Rob, I got a question for you. Hang on a second. Let me just find the end broadcast button.